All right, let's dive into one of the most brilliant and honestly kind of mind-bending ideas in all of technology. We're going to talk about how two people can create a shared secret right out in the open while someone else is listening to every single word. Sounds completely impossible, right? Well, let's find out how the magic really works. Seriously, just take a second and think about this problem. Imagine you and a friend need to come up with a secret password, but you're on opposite sides of a crowded room. The only way to communicate is by shouting. How do you do it without everyone else in the room learning your password? It feels like a total paradox, and you know what? Before 1976, pretty much everyone in computer science agreed. They thought it was impossible. But then, two guys named Diffie and Hellman came along and changed absolutely everything. To see how they did it, let's meet the two most famous characters in all of cryptography, Alice and Bob. There are stand-ins for any two people or any two computers that need to talk securely over a public network. You know, like the internet. And here's the catch. They've never met, and they have no secret codes to start with. Okay, so we're about to watch Alice and Bob pull off what really looks like a magic trick. First, we're just going to walk through exactly what they do, step by step. Just follow along. And then, I promise, we'll pull back the curtain and show you the beautiful math that makes it all possible. The whole thing really just boils down to these 4 simple steps. First, Alice and Bob will agree on some numbers out in the open for everyone to see. Then they'll each pick a private number that they keep completely to themselves. After that, they'll exchange some new public numbers. And then, somehow, using this mix of public and private info, they're both going to land on the exact same shared secret. Let's see how they do it. So step 1. Alice and Bob publicly agree on 2 numbers. The first is a prime number, p. For our little example, we'll use 23. The second is something called a generator, g. We'll use 5. Now, don't get too hung up on what a generator is. Just think of it as another public ingredient for our recipe. The critical thing here is that none of this is secret. They could shout these numbers across a room or post them online. An eavesdropper, let's call her Eve, sees these numbers, and it doesn't matter at all. Okay, step 2. This is where the real secret part comes in. All by themselves, Alice picks a private number. Let's say she picks 6. At the same time, Bob picks his own private number. We'll say 15. This is so important. These numbers are never ever shared with anyone. Not with each other, not with Eve, nobody. They are the only truly private pieces in this entire puzzle. Step 3 is where the math starts to happen. Alice takes the public generator, 5, raises it to the power of her private secret, 6, and then does a modulo of the public prime number, 23. Now, modulo sounds complicated, but it's just a fancy term for the remainder after you divide. Think of it like clock arithmetic. If you add 5 hours to 2000, you get 25. But on a 24-hour clock, that's just 1. The modulo is 1. So, Alice's math gives her the number 8. Bob does the exact same calculation with his secret number, 15, and he gets 19. Then, they send these results, 8 and 19, to each other, right out in the open. Our attacker, Eve, sees these numbers fly by. And now, for the grand finale, the final step. Alice takes the number she just got from Bob, that's 19, and she raises it to the power of her own private secret, 6, and does the modulo 23 again. Meanwhile, Bob takes the number he got from Alice, that's 8, and raises it to the power of his private secret, 15, and also does the modulo 23. They're both doing their own math completely separately. And what do they end up with? Incredibly, they both land on the exact same number, 2. That's it. That is their shared secret. They just built it together, in public, without ever actually sending it. Now they can use this key to encrypt everything they say, and Eve is just left holding a bunch of public numbers that are totally useless to her. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. That's the absolute genius of Diffie-Hellman. The secret key, the number 2 in our case, was never transmitted. It was constructed on both ends at the same time, created from a clever dance of public and private information. So you're probably asking, how on earth did that work? It feels like some kind of weird mathematical trick, right? But it actually relies on a surprisingly simple and beautiful property of numbers. Let's peel back that curtain. Here it is. The entire secret is right here in this one little equation. Remember what Alice did at the end? She took the number from Bob, which was really g to the power of b, and she raised it to her private key a. And Bob did the mirror image. He took Alice's number, g to the a, and raised it to his private key b. Well, a basic rule of exponents says that both of those calculations end up being the exact same thing, g to the power of a times b. The math itself guarantees they'll end up at the same destination. But, okay, why is it secure? If Eve sees all the public numbers, why can't she just work backwards and figure out the secrets? It's because of a famously hard math problem called the discrete logarithm problem. You can think of it as a one-way street in math. It's super easy to go one way, to calculate 5 to the power of 6 mod 23 and get 8. But it's practically impossible, especially with the gigantic numbers used in real life, to go backwards, to figure out the secret number 6 just by looking at the 5, the 23, and the 8. That's the mathematical brick wall that protects the secret. So this is way more than just a cool thought experiment. This algorithm is a fundamental piece of the modern internet. Let's take a look at how this theoretical magic actually keeps you safe every single day. Now, the original recipe for Diffie-Hellman, for all its brilliance, does have one major weakness, something called a man-in-the-middle attack. See, Alice and Bob never actually prove who they are, so an attacker, Eve, could sit in the middle, pretending to be Bob when she talks to Alice and pretending to be Alice when she talks to Bob. She could create a separate secret key with each of them and just relay messages back and forth, reading everything. The solution? We add an authentication step. Modern systems like TLS, that's what puts the S in HTTPS, use digital certificates to prove you are who you say you are before the key exchange ever begins. The original idea has also, of course, gotten some major upgrades over the years. This has led to 2 really important modern versions that you are constantly using, probably without even knowing it: Ephemeral Diffie-Hellman, or DHE, and Elliptic Curve Diffie-Hellman, ECDHE. Ephemeral Diffie-Hellman is just brilliant. Ephemeral just means temporary. So for every single time you connect to a secure website, you generate a brand new temporary set of private keys for that one session. Now, why is this a big deal? It gives us this incredible property called forward secrecy. It means that even if a hacker, years from now, manages to steal a server's main, long-term secret key, they still can't go back and decrypt your old conversations. Why not? Because those conversations were protected by temporary keys that were used once and then thrown away forever. And then there's elliptic curve Diffie-Hellman. Instead of using regular old multiplication and exponents, this version uses a different, much more complex type of math based on the points on an elliptic curve. The result is huge. You get the same ironclad security, but with much, much smaller keys. That makes the whole process way faster and more efficient, which is a total game changer for devices with less power, like your phone or even a smartwatch. So the next time you see that little padlock in your web browser, or you connect to a server with SSH, or you fire up your VPN, or send a message on an app like Signal or WhatsApp, you can bet that a powerful modern version of the Diffie-Hellman key exchange is working silently in the background, building you a secure tunnel in a matter of milliseconds. For almost 50 years, this elegant piece of mathematics has been the guardian of our digital secrets. But we are right now on the cusp of a totally new era in computing, one that poses a direct, existential threat to the very foundations of our security. That threat comes from quantum computers. There's a theoretical tool called Shor's algorithm, which is designed to run on a powerful quantum machine. And what it does is solve the discrete logarithm problem very, very efficiently. In other words, it completely shatters that mathematical one-way street that keeps Diffie-Hellman safe. It renders our current methods of creating secrets totally obsolete. And that leaves all of us with a fascinating and incredibly important question. With quantum computers looming on the horizon, the race is on for cryptographers all over the world to design and deploy new, post-quantum algorithms that can stand up to these future machines. It's just a powerful reminder that, in the world of security, the game of making and breaking secrets, it never truly ends.